Stop scrolling right now, because what I'm about to reveal will completely transform how you approach every single challenge in your life. Picture this. A brilliant military strategist sits in ancient China, watching armies clash, empires rise and fall, and in that moment, he discovers 13 secrets so powerful, so timelessly effective, that they've shaped the destiny of warriors, CEOs, athletes, and world leaders for over 25 centuries. These aren't just battle tactics. These are the hidden keys to winning at life itself, and you're about to unlock every single one of them. Whether you're fighting to build your dream business, competing for that promotion, navigating complex relationships, or battling your own inner demons, the ancient wisdom you're about to hear will give you an unfair advantage that most people will never discover. This isn't theory. This isn't motivational fluff. This is battle-tested, proven strategy that has literally decided the fate of nations. And today, it's going to change everything you thought you knew about success, competition, and victory. The Art of War, written by the legendary Chinese military strategist Sun Tzu around 500 BCE, stands as one of the most influential books ever written, period. But here's what most people completely miss. This isn't just a book about ancient warfare. It's a complete operating system for your mind, a framework for approaching any competitive situation, any conflict, any challenge where you need to come out on top. Sun Tzu understood something profound, something that separates winners from losers across every field of human endeavor. Victory isn't about being the strongest, the richest, or even the smartest. It's about understanding the fundamental principles that govern all conflict and competition. Let's dive deep into the first transformational principle that Sun Tzu reveals, and trust me, this alone is worth more than a dozen business school courses. Sun Tzu begins by emphasizing that war, or any competitive endeavor, is a matter of vital importance to the state, to the organization, to you as an individual. It's the province of life or death, the road to either survival or ruin, and therefore, it demands your complete, focused attention. You can't approach your biggest challenges casually. You can't wing it. You can't hope for the best. The stakes are too high. Sun Tzu tells us that we must appraise situations through 5 fundamental factors, 5 lenses through which we must examine every competitive scenario. First, there's the moral law, which causes people to be in complete accord with their leader, so that they'll follow him regardless of their lives, undismayed by any danger. Think about this in modern terms. This is your mission, your purpose, your why. When you're building a business, leading a team, or even pursuing personal goals, do you have a compelling vision that inspires complete commitment? Are the people around you, your team members, your partners, your family, truly aligned with your mission? Because without this alignment, without this shared sense of purpose, you're fighting with one hand tied behind your back. The second factor is heaven, which Sun Tzu describes as night and day, cold and heat, times and seasons. In our modern context, this is about timing, about understanding the external conditions, the market forces, the trends, the zeitgeist. Are you launching your product at the right moment? Are you making your move when the conditions favor you? Some of the smartest, most talented people fail simply because their timing is off. They're trying to sell ice to Eskimos, or they're zigging when the world is zagging. The third factor is earth, the terrain, the distances, the degree of difficulty in passage, the dimensions of the field, whether the ground is narrow or wide, whether it presents opportunities for life or death. Today, this translates to your competitive landscape, your market position, your resources, your infrastructure. What advantages does your position give you? What are the natural obstacles you face? A startup competing against Google needs to understand the terrain completely differently than Google understands it. They need to find the narrow mountain passes where agility beats size, where innovation trumps resources. The fourth factor is the commander, who must possess qualities of wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and strictness. This is leadership, pure and simple, and Sun Tzu is telling us that you need all 5 qualities, not just 1 or 2. You need wisdom to make the right decisions, sincerity to build trust, benevolence to inspire loyalty, courage to take necessary risks, and strictness to maintain discipline. Look at any failed organization, any collapsed empire, any derailed career, and you'll often find a leader who had some of these qualities but not all of them. The fifth factor is method and discipline, the marshaling of the army in its proper subdivisions, the management of logistics, the control of expenditure. In business terms, this is your systems, your processes, your operations. You can have the most brilliant strategy in the world, but if you can't execute, if your operations are chaotic, if your team doesn't know who's responsible for what, you're going to lose to someone with a decent strategy and excellent execution every single time. Now here's where Sun Tzu drops a truth bomb that most people never fully absorb. All warfare is based on deception. Read that again, let it sink in. Sun Tzu isn't advocating dishonesty or unethical behavior. He's revealing a fundamental truth about competition, that you must never show your full hand, never reveal your complete strategy, never let your opponent understand your true capabilities and intentions. When you're capable, appear incapable. When active, appear inactive. When near, appear far. When far, appear near. Think about how this applies to your career, your business, your negotiations. The person who shows all their cards, who reveals their desperation, who makes their limitations obvious, puts themselves at a massive disadvantage. I'm not telling you to lie. I'm telling you to be strategically aware of what information you share and when you share it. When you're negotiating a salary, you don't lead by telling them you're desperate for the job. When you're launching a new product, you don't announce your entire roadmap to competitors. When you're building your skills, you don't broadcast every struggle on social media. You work quietly and let your results speak. Sun Tzu continues with practical tactical advice that translates brilliantly to modern competition. Offer the enemy a bait to lure him, feign disorder and strike him. If he's secure at all points, be prepared for him. If he's superior in strength, evade him. If your opponent is temperamental, seek to irritate him. If he's arrogant, encourage his arrogance. Every single one of these tactics has a direct application to whatever competitive arena you're in. Let's talk about that last one, encouraging arrogance, because it's so powerful and so underutilized. When your competitor is getting cocky, when they're starting to believe their own hype, the worst thing you can do is challenge their ego directly. Instead, you let them overextend, you let them get comfortable, you let them make the mistakes that arrogant people inevitably make. I've seen this play out in business countless times. The market leader gets so confident that they stop innovating, they stop listening to customers, and then boom, a hungry upstart eats their lunch. Sun Tzu emphasizes that the general who wins a battle makes many calculations in his temple before the battle is fought. The general who loses a battle makes but few calculations beforehand. This is perhaps the most important lesson in the entire book. Victory is decided before the battle even begins. It's decided in the preparation, in the planning, in the careful analysis of every factor. When you see someone achieve what looks like overnight success, I guarantee you they spent months or years making calculations, planning, preparing, positioning themselves for that moment. This is why winging it, hoping for the best, trusting your gut without analysis, is a recipe for disaster. Yes, you need intuition. Yes, you need to be able to adapt and improvise, but that comes after you've done the deep work of preparation. Muhammad Ali didn't step into the ring with Sonny Liston hoping his instincts would carry him. He studied every fight Liston had ever had. He analyzed his patterns, he planned his approach, and then, in the ring, his instincts could operate on top of that foundation of preparation. Moving into Sun Tzu's discussion of waging war, he makes a crucial point about the economics of conflict that most people completely overlook. He says, there is no instance of a country having benefited from prolonged warfare. In business terms, this means dragged-out competitions, price wars, lengthy legal battles, extended negotiations. They drain resources from everyone involved. The goal isn't to fight forever, it's to win decisively and quickly, to achieve your objectives with minimum expenditure of resources. Sun Tzu writes thus, though we have heard of stupid haste in war, cleverness has never been seen associated with long delays. This is about momentum, about the cost of hesitation. Yes, you need preparation, but there comes a moment when you must act, when further delay becomes more dangerous than imperfect action. How many dreams have died not because the dreamer lacked ability, but because they waited for perfect conditions that never came? How many businesses have failed not because the idea was wrong, but because they moved too slowly while the market shifted? The master strategist is telling us to seize initiative, to move with purpose and speed once the preparation is complete. He talks about the importance of living off the enemy's resources when possible, of making your competition pay the cost of the battle. In modern terms, this might mean using your competitors' advertising to raise awareness of the product category you're both in, or leveraging their weaknesses to strengthen your position without spending your own resources. But here's a critical nuance that Sun Tzu emphasizes: in war, then, let your great object be victory, not lengthy campaigns. The point isn't to be in conflict. The point is to achieve your objective. Too many people, businesses, and organizations get caught up in the fight itself. They start measuring success by how hard they're fighting rather than by whether they're achieving their goals. You see this in businesses that are so focused on beating a specific competitor that they lose sight of serving customers. You see it in people so obsessed with proving others wrong that they forget to build something meaningful. The third principle Sun Tzu explores is attack by stratagem, and this is where things get really interesting for anyone trying to win in business, career, or life. He states something that should be carved into every office wall, every gym, every school. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Let that sink in deeply. The highest form of victory isn't defeating your opponent in battle. It's making the battle unnecessary. How do you apply this revolutionary concept? In business, it means creating such a strong market position, such a powerful brand, such deep customer relationships, that competitors don't even bother trying to take you on directly. It means innovating so far ahead that by the time others copy you, you've already moved to the next level. In your career, it means becoming so valuable, so uniquely skilled, so well-networked, that you don't have to fight for opportunities, they come to you. Sun Tzu lays out a hierarchy of military operations that translates perfectly to competitive strategy. The best policy is to attack the enemy's strategy. The next best is to disrupt his alliances. The next best is to attack his army. And the worst policy is to attack walled cities. In modern language, first, make your competitor's strategy obsolete. If you can't do that, isolate them from their partners and supporters. If you can't do that, compete directly. And if you can't do that, engage in expensive, grinding, frontal assaults. Think about how Apple approached the smartphone market. They didn't attack Nokia directly where Nokia was strongest, in manufacturing scale and carrier relationships. They attacked the strategy itself by redefining what a phone should be. They made Nokia's entire approach obsolete. That's genius-level Sun Tzu in action. He provides specific tactical ratios that are fascinating. If your forces are 10 to the opponent's 1, surround him. If 5 times his strength, attack him. If double his strength, divide him. If equally matched, you may engage him with some good plan. If weaker numerically, be capable of withdrawing. And if in all respects unequal, be capable of eluding him. This is brutally honest strategic thinking. Sun Tzu is saying, know your relative strength, and adjust your tactics accordingly. Don't let ego drive you into battles you can't win. Most people violate this principle constantly. They pick fights they can't win. They compete in arenas where they're massively outgunned, and then they wonder why they fail. If you're a solo entrepreneur with a great idea but limited resources, don't try to compete head-to-head with billion-dollar corporations in their core market. Find the angles they can't cover, the niches they ignore, the innovations they're too big to pursue. That's not weakness, that's strategic brilliance. Sun Tzu warns about 5 dangerous faults that can affect a leader: recklessness, which leads to destruction; cowardice, which leads to capture; a hasty temper, which can be provoked by insults; a delicacy of honor, which is sensitive to shame; and over-solicitude for people, which exposes one to worry and trouble. Each of these resonates powerfully today. Recklessness, that overconfidence that makes people take stupid risks. We see it in every market bubble, every failed startup that burned through cash without a sustainable model. Cowardice, the inability to make hard decisions when needed. We see it in leaders who avoid difficult conversations until small problems become existential crises. Hasty temper, being easily provoked. We see it in Twitter feuds that destroy reputations, in executives who respond emotionally to criticism instead of strategically. Delicacy of honor, caring too much about what others think. We see it in people who play it safe to avoid criticism and never achieve anything remarkable. Over solicitude, trying to please everyone. We see it in leaders who can't make tough calls because they're paralyzed by the desire to keep everyone happy. The wisdom here is profound. Know your weaknesses, because your enemies will exploit them. If you're reckless, smart competitors will bait you into overextending. If you're easily provoked, they'll use your temper against you. The path to victory starts with honest self-assessment. Moving to Sun Tzu's principles on tactical dispositions, he reveals something crucial. The good fighters of old first put themselves beyond the possibility of defeat, and then waited for an opportunity of defeating the enemy. This is defense first, offense second, and it's the opposite of how most people approach competition. They focus entirely on attacking, on winning, on aggressive expansion, and they leave themselves vulnerable. Build your fortress first, secure your base, make yourself hard to beat, and then, from that position of strength, you can take calculated risks. In business terms, this might mean achieving profitability and positive cash flow before pursuing aggressive growth. In career terms, it might mean developing deep expertise and a strong reputation before making a big move. In personal finance, it means building an emergency fund before making investments. Sun Tzu states, security against defeat implies defensive tactics. Ability to defeat the enemy means taking the offensive. You need both, and you need to know when to employ each. There's a time to defend your position, to consolidate your gains, to shore up your weaknesses. And there's a time to attack, to seize opportunities, to press your advantages. Wisdom is knowing which moment requires which approach. He writes beautifully, to see victory only when it is within the ken of the common herd is not the acme of excellence. Real strategic vision means seeing opportunities that others miss, seeing paths to victory that aren't obvious. This is what separates good from great, the ability to perceive possibilities before they become apparent to everyone else. When Steve Jobs envisioned the iPhone, the common herd didn't see it, analysts questioned it, Nokia and BlackBerry dismissed it, but he saw a future that hadn't arrived yet. The master strategist, according to Sun Tzu, wins without gaining a reputation for wisdom or credit for courage. His victories bring him neither fame nor glory because he wins without mistakes, without dramatic battles, without visible heroics. He positions himself so perfectly that when he moves, victory is already assured. This is perhaps the most advanced level of strategic thinking, winning so smoothly that it looks easy, so completely that no one even notices how brilliant the strategy was. In the chapter on energy, Sun Tzu explores the management of forces, and here's where his insights become incredibly applicable to modern team leadership and personal productivity. He talks about direct and indirect methods, about orthodoxy and surprise, about combining the expected with the unexpected. He writes, in all fighting, the direct method may be used for joining battle, but indirect methods will be needed in order to secure victory. This means you need your standard plays, your reliable approaches, your proven methods, but you also need creativity, surprise, innovation. The business that only does what everyone expects becomes predictable and vulnerable. The person who only uses conventional approaches in their career gets conventional results. You need both the solid foundation of proven methods and the creative spark of innovation. Sun Tzu discusses the importance of momentum and timing with this powerful metaphor. The quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. It's not just about making good decisions, it's about making them at exactly the right moment, with exactly the right force. Too early and you waste energy, too late and you miss the opportunity. This is mastery-level execution. Think about how this applies to launching a product, too early and the market isn't ready, too late and competitors have seized the opportunity. Or to asking for a raise, too early in your tenure and you haven't proven value, too late and you've already established a pattern of being undercompensated. The falcon doesn't swoop randomly, it watches, it waits, it calculates. and then it strikes with perfect timing and overwhelming force. He emphasizes that simulated disorder postulates perfect discipline, simulated fear postulates courage, simulated weakness postulates strength. This is next-level strategic deception. You can only effectively appear weak if you're actually strong. You can only fake disorder if your underlying systems are highly disciplined. The appearance and the reality must be opposites, and this requires tremendous sophistication. In Weak Points and Strong, Sun Tzu teaches us about the critical importance of concentration of force and strategic positioning. He states, an army may march great distances without distress, if it marches through country where the enemy is not. This is about choosing your battles, about finding paths of least resistance where possible, about not fighting uphill battles when you can avoid them. Why do so many businesses fail? Because they choose incredibly difficult markets, with entrenched competitors, high customer acquisition costs, and brutal competition, when there are adjacent markets with less competition and easier paths to success. Why do talented people struggle in their careers? Sometimes because they're fighting against the tide of their organization's culture or industry trends, when a different environment would allow them to flourish. Sun Tzu advises, appear at points which the enemy must hasten to defend. March swiftly to places where you are not expected. This is about creating dilemmas for your competition, about making them react to you rather than you reacting to them. When you force your opponent to respond to your moves, you control the tempo, you dictate the terms of engagement, you make them fight on your ground. He emphasizes the importance of adaptability. Water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. The soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he is facing. You can't have a rigid, unchanging strategy. You must adapt to circumstances, to your specific opponent, to the actual conditions you face. The strategy that worked in your last job might not work in your new one. The approach that succeeded with your previous product might fail with your current one. This is why frameworks and principles are more valuable than specific tactics. Tactics are context-dependent, but principles are universal. Sun Tzu is giving us principles that we can apply regardless of our specific situation. In maneuvering, Sun Tzu explores the challenges of operational execution, and this is where strategy meets reality. He warns, when an army is overthrown and its leader slain, the cause will surely be found among the 5 dangerous faults, which he enumerates as recklessness, cowardice, hasty temper, delicacy of honor, and over-solicitude for the welfare of soldiers. He provides tactical wisdom about when to fight and when to avoid battle, about reading the signs of your opponent's condition and intentions. He teaches that you must consider carefully the question of convenience and inconvenience, that advantages and disadvantages are interdependent, that the wise leader weighs both together. This is sophisticated thinking that transcends simple optimism or pessimism. Every advantage has its accompanying disadvantage, every strength its corresponding weakness. The key is to maximize advantages while minimizing the downsides, to turn your opponent's strengths into weaknesses, to make their advantages work against them. Sun Tzu writes, he wins his battles by making no mistakes. Making no mistakes is what establishes the certainty of victory, for it means conquering an enemy that is already defeated. This is about minimizing unforced errors, about not beating yourself. In sports, in business, in life, most people lose not because their opponent was so brilliant, but because they made preventable mistakes. The chapter on variation in tactics emphasizes flexibility and the dangers of rigid thinking. Sun Tzu lists 5 dangerous circumstances that can affect a general: recklessness leading to destruction, cowardice leading to capture, hasty temper leading to provocation, delicacy of honor leading to shame, and over-solicitude leading to worry. But he also teaches that there are roads which must not be followed, armies which must not be attacked, towns which must not be besieged, positions which must not be contested, and commands of the sovereign which must not be obeyed. This last point is revolutionary. Sometimes the wise leader must disobey orders from above when those orders are strategically unsound. In modern terms, this means having the courage to push back when your boss, your board, or your stakeholders are pushing for something that you know is wrong strategically. This takes tremendous courage and political skill, but it's essential for long-term success. Yes, men who never challenge bad ideas are not good strategists. The chapter on the Army on the March provides practical guidance about reading situations and interpreting signs. Sun Tzu teaches how to assess terrain, how to interpret the behavior of enemy forces, how to maintain discipline and morale during difficult conditions. While some of this is specific to ancient warfare, the underlying principle is universal. Pay attention to signals, be observant, read between the lines, understand what behavior reveals about underlying conditions. In business, this means watching what competitors do, not just what they say, monitoring customer behavior, not just their stated preferences, observing employee actions, not just their words. In negotiations, this means reading body language, tone, patterns of response. In relationships, this means noticing changes in behavior that signal shifting attitudes or circumstances. Sun Tzu provides an extensive list of signs and what they indicate, and while the specific examples involve ancient military movements, the meta lesson is invaluable. Become a careful observer. Develop the ability to interpret indirect signals. Don't just react to what's obvious and stated, but understand what's hidden and implied. He emphasizes the importance of treating soldiers with humanity while maintaining strict discipline, noting that, if soldiers are punished before they have grown attached to you, they will not prove submissive, and unless submissive, they will be practically useless. If, when the soldiers have become attached to you, punishments are not enforced, they will still be useless. This is brilliant leadership psychology. You must first earn loyalty and connection, and only then can you enforce high standards. But you must enforce those standards, or loyalty becomes permissiveness and performance suffers. Modern leadership research confirms this ancient wisdom. The best leaders combine warmth with competence, connection with accountability, empathy with high expectations. In terrain, Sun Tzu categorizes different types of ground and how to handle each. He distinguishes between accessible ground, entangling ground, temporizing ground, narrow passes, precipitous heights, and positions at a great distance from the enemy. Each type of terrain requires different tactics. The modern equivalent is understanding different competitive environments, different market conditions, different organizational contexts. The strategy that works in a rapidly growing market is different from what works in a mature, stable market. The approach that succeeds in a startup is different from what works in a large corporation. The tactics that work in times of abundance are different from what's required in times of scarcity. Sun Tzu emphasizes knowing yourself and knowing your enemy. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. This is perhaps the most famous passage in the entire work, and its wisdom cannot be overstated. Self-knowledge is the foundation of all strategy. You must understand your strengths, your weaknesses, your resources, your limitations, your biases, your blind spots. And you must understand the same about your competition, your market, your opponents. Most people fail at both. They overestimate their own capabilities and they underestimate or misunderstand their competition. They think they're stronger than they are. They think their opponents are weaker than they are, and they make catastrophic mistakes as a result. The chapter on the 9 situations explores different types of strategic scenarios and how to handle each. Sun Tzu discusses dispersive ground, facile ground, contentious ground, open ground, ground of intersecting highways, serious ground, difficult ground, hemmed-in ground, and desperate ground. Each type of ground, each type of situation, requires different tactics. The key insight is that there's no universal strategy that works in all situations. You must adapt your approach to your specific circumstances. On desperate ground, Sun Tzu advises, you must fight with the courage of desperation. On serious ground, you must ensure unity and cohesion. On open ground, you must not allow your forces to halt. This sophisticated situational thinking is what separates master strategists from average ones. The ability to read the situation accurately and apply the appropriate approach. In business, This might mean recognizing when you're in a desperate situation that requires bold, risky moves versus when you're in a strong position that calls for consolidation and steady progress. Sun Tzu discusses the importance of speed and surprise. Rapidity is the essence of war. Take advantage of the enemy's unreadiness, make your way by unexpected routes, and attack unguarded spots. This is about maintaining initiative, about keeping your opponent off balance, about never becoming predictable. In modern competition, predictability is death. If your competitors can anticipate your every move, they can position themselves to counter you. If customers can predict your products, they get bored and look elsewhere. You must maintain an element of surprise, of innovation, of unexpectedness, while still being reliable in delivering value. He teaches about the psychology of desperate situations. Place your army in deadly peril, and it will survive. Plunge it into desperate straits, and it will come off in safety. This seems paradoxical, but there's profound truth here. When people face existential threats, when the stakes are clearly life or death, they find reserves of courage, creativity, and commitment that they didn't know they had. This is why some of the best innovations come from struggling companies facing bankruptcy, why some people achieve their greatest accomplishments when their backs are against the wall. Comfort breeds complacency, while necessity breeds innovation. Obviously, you don't want to unnecessarily put yourself in desperate situations, but when you find yourself there, understand that it can unlock capabilities you didn't know you possessed. The chapter on attack by fire discusses using the element of fire in warfare, and while the literal application is less relevant today, the metaphorical application is powerful. Fire represents any devastating, hard-to-control force that can be unleashed strategically. In modern terms, this might be viral marketing, disruptive innovation, or any tactic that once unleashed, spreads and grows beyond your direct control. Sun Tzu emphasizes that such powerful tactics must be used carefully, with full understanding of the conditions required for success, and with clear objectives in mind. He writes, "Move not unless you see an advantage. Use not your troops unless there is something to be gained. Fight not unless the position is critical." This is about patience, about restraint, about not acting just for the sake of acting. Many people, many businesses, stay in constant motion without clear purpose. They're always doing something but rarely achieving strategic objectives. The wise leader acts decisively when action is called for and waits patiently when waiting is appropriate. He warns against anger-driven decisions. A kingdom that has once been destroyed can never come again into being, nor can the dead ever be brought back to life. Hence the enlightened ruler is heedful, and the good general full of caution. This is about recognizing that some mistakes are irreversible, some decisions have permanent consequences. In your career, burning bridges with important relationships, destroying your reputation through impulsive actions, these are hard or impossible to undo. In business, certain strategic mistakes can be fatal. You can't always recover from choosing the wrong market or alienating your customer base. Therefore, exercise caution, think through second and third order consequences before making major moves. The final chapter, on the use of spies, discusses intelligence gathering and the critical importance of information. Sun Tzu writes, "What enables the wise sovereign and the good general to strike and conquer, and achieve things beyond the reach of ordinary men, is foreknowledge." Foreknowledge, information advantage, understanding what others don't know, this is the ultimate competitive advantage. Sun Tzu emphasizes that this knowledge cannot come from supernatural sources, cannot be gained from analogy or calculation alone, but must be obtained from people who know the enemy's situation. In modern terms, this is about market research, competitive intelligence, customer feedback, insider information, anything that gives you information advantage. The businesses that win are often the ones with the best information. They understand customer needs better. They anticipate market shifts faster. They know what competitors are planning before those plans are executed. Sun Tzu discusses different types of spies and intelligence sources, and while the specific categories are less relevant today, the principle stands. Invest in information gathering, develop sources of insight, and recognize that the cost of good intelligence is minimal compared to the cost of operating blind. He emphasizes treating intelligence sources well, protecting them, rewarding them generously, because good information is invaluable. In your career, this means building relationships with people who can give you insight into opportunities, industry trends, or organizational dynamics. In business, this means investing in research, in customer development, in competitive analysis, in any activity that reduces uncertainty and increases understanding. The book concludes with Sun Tzu's emphasis on the critical importance of intelligence. Of all those in the army close to the commander, none is more intimate than the spies. Of all rewards, none more liberal than those given to spies. Of all matters, none is more confidential than those relating to spy operations. This final emphasis on information and intelligence brings us full circle to Sun Tzu's opening themes about preparation, calculation, and understanding. Victory, he's telling us throughout this masterpiece, goes to those who prepare most thoroughly, who understand their situation most completely, who adapt most skillfully, and who execute most decisively. Now, let's talk about how you apply all of this wisdom to your life right now, today, in practical terms. First, you need to conduct your own strategic assessment. Ask yourself the 5 fundamental questions Sun Tzu poses. What's your mission, your purpose, your moral law? Are the people in your life aligned with your goals? What's your timing like? Are you working with favorable conditions or against them? What's your terrain, your market position, your competitive landscape? How do you rate as a leader of your own life across wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and strictness? What are your methods, systems, and discipline like? Be brutally honest in this assessment, because self-deception is the fastest path to defeat. Write down your answers, reflect on them, and identify where you're strong and where you're vulnerable. Then, think about your competition, whoever or whatever stands between you and your goals. What are their strengths and weaknesses? What are their strategies? Where are they vulnerable? Where are they strong? How can you compete indirectly rather than head-on? Next, commit to the principle of preparation before action. Before you launch that business, before you ask for that promotion, before you make that major life change, do your calculations in the temple. Research, plan, prepare, position yourself for success. This doesn't mean waiting for perfect conditions. It means stacking the odds in your favor before you make your move. Embrace the power of strategic patience. Recognize that the best victories are the ones where you don't have to fight, where your position is so strong, your value so clear, your preparation so thorough, that success becomes almost inevitable. Stop trying to muscle through everything. Stop competing where you're weak. Start positioning yourself where you're strong. Learn to read situations. Develop your ability to interpret signals, to understand what's happening beneath the surface, to anticipate changes before they become obvious. This means paying attention, asking questions, listening more than you talk, observing patterns, and connecting dots that others miss. Invest in knowledge and intelligence. Become obsessed with understanding your field, your market, your industry, your craft, better than anyone else. Read voraciously, study your competitors, talk to customers, seek out mentors and advisors, build your network. Information advantage is the most sustainable competitive advantage there is. Develop both strength and flexibility. Build your fortress, make yourself hard to beat, establish your base of skills, relationships, and resources, but also stay adaptable. Be willing to change tactics when circumstances change. Don't fall in love with your plan at the expense of your objective. Work on eliminating your dangerous faults. If you're reckless, develop more discipline. If you're too cautious, develop more courage. If you're easily provoked, develop emotional control. If you care too much what others think, develop stronger internal validation. If you try to please everyone, develop the ability to make hard choices. Your weaknesses are where you're most vulnerable, so address them systematically. Practice strategic deception in the Sun Tzu sense. Don't broadcast your every move. Don't reveal all your cards. Don't make your limitations obvious. Be strategic about what you share and when you share it. This isn't about dishonesty, it's about maintaining strategic advantage. Move with speed and decisiveness once you've prepared. Once you've done your calculations. Once you've positioned yourself. Act with commitment and momentum. Hesitation kills more dreams than failure ever will. Because hesitation means you never even try. And perhaps most importantly, recognize that competition, conflict, challenge, these are all just part of the game. They're not personal. They're not evil. They're just the natural state of a world where resources and opportunities are limited and many people want the same things. The art of war teaches us to approach competition with wisdom, preparation, and strategic thinking rather than with anger, desperation, or ego. Sun Tzu's genius lies in recognizing that the principles governing successful competition are timeless and universal. Whether you're a general commanding armies, a CEO building a company, an athlete competing for championships, or an individual pursuing your dreams, the fundamental principles remain the same. Know yourself, know your competition, prepare thoroughly, position strategically, act decisively, adapt continuously, and above all, think several moves ahead. This ancient text has survived for 25 centuries not because it's a historical curiosity, but because it contains profound truths about human nature, competition, strategy, and success that are as relevant today as they were when Sun Tzu first wrote them on bamboo slips in ancient China. Every successful person, every winning organization, every triumphant movement throughout history has, consciously or unconsciously, applied these principles. They've done their calculations before battle. They've positioned themselves strategically. They've adapted to circumstances. They've concentrated their forces at decisive points. They've maintained momentum. They've gathered intelligence. They've eliminated their own weaknesses. They've exploited their opponents' vulnerabilities. The question isn't whether these principles work. The question is whether you'll have the discipline, the wisdom, and the courage to apply them in your own life. Right now, at this very moment, you have a choice to make. You can continue approaching your challenges, your competitions, your goals the way you always have, reacting instead of strategizing, hoping instead of planning, fighting battles you haven't prepared for, or you can embrace the mindset of the master strategist. You can start thinking 3 moves ahead. You can start positioning yourself for inevitable victory rather than hoping for lucky breaks. Think about the biggest challenge you're facing right now. Maybe it's building your business. Maybe it's advancing your career. Maybe it's improving your relationships. Maybe it's overcoming a personal obstacle. Now apply Sun Tzu's framework to it. What's your moral law? Your compelling mission that gives you the strength to persist? What's the timing like? Are conditions favorable or should you wait? What's the terrain? What advantages and disadvantages does your position present? How strong is your leadership of yourself, your wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and discipline? What are your methods and systems? Then analyze your competition, your obstacles, the forces working against you. What are their strengths, their weaknesses, their strategies? Where are they vulnerable? Where can you compete indirectly rather than head-on? What would victory without fighting look like in your situation? How can you position yourself so strongly that your success becomes almost inevitable? This kind of thinking, this strategic mindset, this is what separates people who achieve extraordinary things from people who struggle despite equal or greater talent and effort. It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. It's about strategy, positioning, timing, and execution. Let me give you some concrete modern examples of Sun Tzu's principles in action, so you can see how this ancient wisdom translates to real-world success. When Netflix was competing against Blockbuster, they didn't try to beat Blockbuster at their own game. They didn't open more physical stores or try to negotiate better deals with movie studios for rentals. Instead, they attacked the strategy itself. They made physical video stores obsolete by offering mail-order rentals, and then they made even that obsolete by moving to streaming. They won without fighting in the traditional sense. They changed the battlefield entirely. When Amazon was starting out, Jeff Bezos didn't try to compete with Barnes & Noble and Borders in physical retail, where those giants were strongest. He chose different terrain, online retail, where the incumbents were weak and where his advantages in technology and logistics could shine. He started with books, not because he loved books particularly, but because books were the perfect product to prove the concept. They didn't spoil, they were easy to ship, customers knew what they wanted, and the selection was so vast that no physical store could compete with the online catalog. That's Sun Tzu's principle of choosing your battlefield, of competing where you're strong and your opponent is weak, of attacking strategy rather than armies. Once Amazon dominated books, they expanded to everything else, but they started where they could win decisively. When Muhammad Ali faced George Foreman in the Rumble in the Jungle, everyone expected Ali to use his famous footwork to dance around the ring, to outbox the younger, stronger, harder-hitting Foreman. That's what Ali's previous success had been built on: speed and movement. But Ali understood terrain and adaptation. He knew that the hot, humid conditions in Zaire would make his usual dancing style exhausting. He knew that Foreman was stronger but had less endurance. So Ali did something no one expected. He developed the rope-a-dope strategy. He leaned against the ropes and let Foreman punch himself out, absorbing blows while conserving energy, making Foreman work harder and harder, until Foreman was exhausted and vulnerable. Then Ali struck decisively and won. That's Sun Tzu's principle of adapting tactics to conditions, of appearing weak while actually being strong, of letting your opponent exhaust himself while you conserve strength. When Apple introduced the iPhone, the dominant players in mobile phones, Nokia, BlackBerry, Motorola, they initially dismissed it. Too expensive, no keyboard, too fragile, not serious enough for business users. They were so confident in their positions, so sure of their understanding of the market, that they didn't recognize the existential threat until it was too late. By the time they tried to respond, Apple had already seized the high ground. The iPhone had already redefined customer expectations, and catching up was impossible. That's Sun Tzu's principle about encouraging your opponent's arrogance, about moving faster than they can respond, about achieving positions from which victory is inevitable before your opponent realizes battle has been joined. Apple didn't try to make a better BlackBerry. They made BlackBerry irrelevant by changing what a phone could be. When Elon Musk wanted to revolutionize the auto industry with Tesla, he didn't start by trying to make affordable electric cars for the mass market, even though that was the ultimate goal. He understood that the technology wasn't ready, the infrastructure wasn't there, and consumer acceptance was low. So he started with the Roadster, an expensive sports car for early adopters who valued performance and innovation over practicality. This gave Tesla the resources and learning to develop better technology, to build the brand, to prove the concept. Then came the Model S, still premium but more practical. Then the Model 3 for the broader market. Each step built on the previous one. Each victory made the next one more achievable. That's Sun Tzu's principle of achieving victory through careful preparation and sequential advancement, of building momentum, of not trying to win everything at once but rather winning battle by battle in a logical sequence. When Warren Buffett invests, he doesn't try to predict market movements or time perfect entries and exits. Instead, he looks for situations where he has such a deep understanding of the business, such confidence in its fundamental value, such a margin of safety in the price he pays, that his success is almost inevitable. He only swings at pitches in his strike zone. He waits for opportunities where his knowledge advantage is overwhelming, where the odds are heavily in his favor. That's Sun Tzu's principle of only fighting when victory is assured, of not moving unless there's advantage to be gained, of patient positioning over reactive hustling. Buffett doesn't win through frenetic activity. He wins through careful selection of opportunities and patient holding of positions. Now think about your own life, your own challenges, your own competitions. Where are you trying to fight uphill battles when you could be choosing different terrain? Where are you competing directly in areas where others are stronger when you could be competing indirectly in areas where you have advantages? Where are you moving reactively, fighting battles as they come, instead of positioning yourself strategically so that favorable battles find you? The transformation that Sun Tzu offers isn't about becoming more aggressive, more competitive, or more combative. It's about becoming more strategic, more thoughtful, more prepared, more patient when patience is called for and more decisive when action is required. It's about replacing hope with strategy, replacing reaction with preparation, replacing hustle without direction with purposeful movement toward clear objectives. One of the most powerful applications of Sun Tzu's wisdom is in knowing when not to fight, when to withdraw, when to avoid battle, when to let go. So many people waste enormous energy, time, and resources fighting battles that don't matter, engaging with critics who don't matter, competing in markets that aren't worth winning, pursuing goals that aren't actually important to them. Sun Tzu teaches us to be ruthlessly selective about where we invest our energy, to fight only battles that must be fought, to pursue only objectives that truly matter. Every fight you avoid, every unnecessary competition you sidestep, conserves resources for the battles that actually matter. Every distraction you resist makes you stronger for the real work. This is especially important in our modern world of constant stimulation, infinite opportunities, and unlimited potential distractions. You could spend your entire life reacting to provocations on social media, responding to competitors' moves, chasing every shiny object that catches your attention. Or you could be strategic, focused, disciplined about where you direct your energy. Sun Tzu would tell you to ignore 99% of the noise, to focus on the vital few competitions that actually matter to your mission, to position yourself so strongly in those few critical areas that victory becomes inevitable. That's how you win not just battles but wars, not just deals but markets, not just games but championships, not just days but lives. Let's talk about applying this wisdom to common life situations that you might be facing right now. If you're building a business, Sun Tzu teaches you to first understand yourself, your unique strengths, your advantages, your resources, your mission. Then understand your market, your customers, your competitors, the trends, the timing. Don't just jump in and start hustling, do your calculations first. Find the narrow ground where your advantages are maximized and your competitors' advantages are minimized. Maybe that's a specific niche market. Maybe it's a specific business model. Maybe it's a specific technology or approach. Position yourself there, build strength there, win there decisively, and then expand from that base of strength. Don't try to compete everywhere at once. Don't try to be everything to everyone. Find your beachhead, secure it, and advance systematically. This is how Amazon beat bigger retailers, how Netflix beat Blockbuster, how Tesla is beating Detroit. Not by being better at everything, but by being dominant in carefully chosen positions and expanding from there. If you're advancing your career, Sun Tzu teaches you to make yourself invaluable before you try to advance, to build your fortress of skills, relationships, and proven performance before you take risks. Don't just work hard, work strategically, develop skills that are rare and valuable, build relationships with people who can advocate for you, create a track record of solving important problems. Position yourself so that opportunities come to you, so that when you ask for a promotion or a raise, the answer is obvious, so that when you're ready to make a move, you have multiple options. Win without fighting by being so obviously valuable that people compete to have you on their team. If you're navigating relationships, Sun Tzu teaches you to understand yourself and understand the other person, to know what you truly want and need, and to understand what they truly want and need. Don't try to force, manipulate, or pressure. Instead, create situations where mutual success is possible, where both parties benefit, where cooperation is more attractive than conflict. Choose your battles carefully in relationships. Recognize that most conflicts aren't worth fighting, that being strategically flexible on small things allows you to be firm on things that truly matter. Build trust through consistency, through doing what you say you'll do, through demonstrating reliability over time. That's your fortress, that's your strong position from which everything else becomes easier. If you're facing personal challenges, health issues, financial struggles, difficult life circumstances, Sun Tzu teaches you to assess your situation honestly, to understand your resources and limitations, to avoid desperate gambits that make things worse, to build strength gradually and systematically. Sometimes you need to defend, to consolidate, to stop the bleeding before you can think about advancing. Sometimes the wise strategy is patience, endurance, steady progress rather than dramatic breakthroughs. Know which situation you're in and act accordingly. Don't let ego or impatience drive you into strategies that your circumstances don't support. The meta lesson that runs through all of Sun Tzu's teaching is this: success is not about being the strongest, the smartest, the most talented, or the luckiest, although those things help. Success is about thinking strategically, preparing thoroughly, positioning carefully, and executing decisively. It's about playing a different game than your competition, about rewriting the rules in your favor, about making victory inevitable through superior strategy. And here's the beautiful thing. Anyone can learn this, anyone can apply this, anyone can benefit from this. You don't need to be born with special gifts, you don't need extraordinary resources, you don't need perfect circumstances. You need wisdom, discipline, patience, and the willingness to think strategically about your life and your goals. Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War 25 centuries ago, but he wrote it for you, for this moment, for the challenges you're facing right now. The battlefield has changed, the weapons have changed, the specific tactics have changed, but the fundamental principles of strategy, competition, and success remain eternal. Every morning when you wake up, you're entering a competitive arena, you're facing challenges, making decisions, trying to achieve objectives in a world where others are competing for the same opportunities, the same resources, the same success. The question is whether you'll approach this strategically or randomly, whether you'll prepare or improvise, whether you'll position yourself for success or hope for lucky breaks. The wisdom is here, the principles are clear, the examples are abundant, and the choice is yours. You can continue doing what you've always done, or you can embrace the mindset of the master strategist. You can start thinking 3 moves ahead, positioning yourself for inevitable victory, adapting to circumstances while staying focused on your objectives. Before we wrap up, let me share one more critical insight from Sun Tzu that ties everything together. The general who thoroughly understands the advantages that accompany variation of tactics knows how to handle his troops. This is about flexibility within structure, about having principles that guide you but tactics that adapt to circumstances. You need your core mission, your fundamental values, your strategic objectives, these are your constants. But your specific tactics, your day-to-day decisions, your immediate responses, these must vary based on the situation you're facing. Rigid adherence to tactics that worked in the past will get you killed when circumstances change, but abandoning your principles and objectives makes you drift aimlessly. The master strategist has clear objectives and flexible tactics. They know where they're going but adapt the route based on terrain and conditions. They're like water, taking the shape of whatever container they're in while always flowing toward the sea. That's the kind of strategic flexibility you need to develop. So here's my challenge to you. And this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where ancient wisdom becomes modern action. Take the next week and conduct your own strategic assessment. Write down your answers to these questions. What's your mission? What are you really trying to achieve in your career, your business, your life? Who are your competitors? What stands between you and your goals? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Really, honestly, without self-deception. What's your terrain? What's your current position and what advantages or disadvantages does it present? What's your timing like? Are you moving with favorable conditions or against them? Then, based on that assessment, identify one strategic change you need to make. Maybe it's choosing different terrain, stopping a losing battle and starting a different one. Maybe it's building strength in a critical area before you advance. Maybe it's adapting your tactics to match your actual circumstances rather than your ideal circumstances. Maybe it's gathering better intelligence about your market or your competition. Maybe it's eliminating one of your dangerous faults that keeps tripping you up. Make that one change, implement it systematically over the next 30 days, and watch how it transforms your results. Then do it again, make another strategic improvement, and another, and another. Over time, this process of continuous strategic refinement will compound into extraordinary results. Remember, Sun Tzu isn't teaching you to be ruthless. He's teaching you to be strategic. He's not teaching you to crush others. He's teaching you to position yourself so strongly that crushing isn't necessary. He's not teaching you to fight more. He's teaching you to fight smarter, and often, to win without fighting at all. The ancient Chinese strategist sitting in his study 25 centuries ago, thinking deeply about the nature of conflict and competition, he gave us a gift that transcends time, culture, and circumstance. He gave us a framework for thinking about any competitive situation, any challenge, any obstacle, and approaching it with wisdom rather than just effort, with strategy rather than just hope. Now it's your turn to take this wisdom and apply it to your life, to your challenges, to your dreams and goals, to become your own master strategist, to start winning not through luck or extraordinary talent, but through superior preparation, positioning, and execution. The principles are timeless, the opportunity is now, and the choice is yours. If you found value in this deep dive into Sun Tzu's The Art of War, if these strategic principles resonated with you, if you can see how this ancient wisdom applies to your modern challenges, do me a favor. Hit that like button. It helps more people discover content that can genuinely transform their approach to competition and success. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future breakdowns of powerful books and ideas that can elevate your life. And drop a comment telling me which principle hit you hardest, which insight you're going to implement first, what challenge you're facing that you now see differently through the lens of strategic thinking. Share this with someone who's struggling with competition, with someone who's working hard but not seeing results, with someone who needs to understand that success is more about strategy than strength, more about positioning than power. This wisdom has changed the world for 25 centuries, and it can change your world too, but only if you apply it, only if you take action, only if you move from understanding to implementation. The battlefield is waiting, your challenges aren't going away, your competition isn't taking a break, but now you have something they probably don't have. You have strategic wisdom. You have the principles that have guided the greatest victories in human history, and you have the opportunity to apply them starting right now. The Art of War isn't just a book, it's a blueprint for winning at life, and you now hold that blueprint. What you do with it will determine everything. Now go out there and win strategically, win decisively, and whenever possible, win without fighting. Your future victories are waiting to be claimed.